Perfect. So, hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us a new community event. In this new event, we will talking about, I think, a topic the most popular today, AI or AE, intelligent artificial and our artificial intelligence. I always listen this pronouns for different pronunciations. So, and today is for architects, but I think you don't need to do today the architect. I think everyone to need to know about this. So, in this case, for the Madrid community, is led by my college, Barbara Garcia. She is a solution architect. Here you can find her networks for anyone who want to connect with hers. She can come with us today, but um, she is very happy for this event because Susannah is here. In my case, my person is Sarah Hernandez, solution architect and the Capgemini. And here you can find to my networks. If for anyone who want to connect with me, is good for me too. So today we have an amazing guest reference of the Salesforce ecosystems. Susannah K. Plaisted. Thank you so much for come for us. She is a relationship. She work in the relationship team at Salesforce, but I will let her introduce herself and discuss all activities she work on the support to the ecosystems because it's not only working in Salesforce. I know she have a lot of initiative participate in different projects. And again, Susannah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Perfect. One more slide, I'm finished. And today, at the end, we have the giveaway where we give the three prize. The important to know that for the different logistical reasons, if the only this gateway is from for Madrid or Spain. During the event, I will share forms in the chat. Please complete your data. I think we don't have now everyone from Spain or Madrid, but I share in the chat. So, okay, I think this is finished. Can you start, Susannah?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just going to pull up my slides and you all let me know if you can see.
Okay. Yes, we can see.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. And Barbara, if you're watching, thank you for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all today to speak about generative AI. And if there's anything that you have trouble because of my American accent, my English, feel free to ask in the chat, ask me to repeat myself. I'm happy to do that. So let me get started. Okay, of course. So as Sarah mentioned, I work for Salesforce. So you're probably, yes, this is being recorded. Great question. Which is another reason why it's so important for me to say our forward-looking statement. I won't read everything on the slide, but this is just a reminder to make your purchasing decisions based on what's currently available in the platform. And that's really important today because we're going to talk about a lot of things that are coming up that are forward looking. So always keep that in mind. And then for those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Susannah Plaisted, and I work at Salesforce in the architect relations team. But I actually came from the community. So I was in the Salesforce community. Just thinking about my first Dreamforce was back in 2012. So I've been in the ecosystem for a while. And I was an architect working at a customer, an architect working at a partner. And I've been at Salesforce for a little over 2.5 years now. And I'm still active. I'm still trying to stay active in the community, whether that's coming to great groups like this and speaking. I'm also involved in a group called Ladies Be Architects, which, if you are watching, and you don't need to be a woman to participate, men and women can participate in Ladies Be Architects. And it provides a lot of great content, some scholarships as well for folks who want to pursue the architect path. And then I'm also involved. I'm an advisor for Scale Up Arcs, which is a Slack, started as a Slack group, the architect Ohana. And that's another great resource if you're interested in learning about architecture and maybe you don't work at a partner yet, or you don't have any local architect friends. These are great groups to get involved with. Okay, so I wanted to start, speaking of the community, I wanted to start by thanking all of you for investing in your learning today, by being here, by watching this video, and of course, all of you who are involved actively in the Madrid Architect User Group. Thank you so much for all of your participation, for everything that you do. And it's really an exciting time. So we're talking about generative AI, and I genuinely think it's a really special time to be working in technology and to be working in the Salesforce ecosystem in particular. We've come a long way with the presence of architects in the Salesforce space. We just started architect community user groups about a year ago. And many of them, like this one, have sprouted up all over the world across 26 countries. That's really exciting. But what is also really exciting is that technology is moving really, really fast right now. And we've said that for a long time, that technology is moving fast, as we move from the cloud to mobile and social. We talked about all of this data getting generated back in, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the Internet of Things, where we talked about all these connected devices and how they were generating more data than ever before. And, how are we going to harness all this data? And then this last wave that's really just come up in the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, where the talk about artificial intelligence, which has been a topic that's been around for quite a while, really, but this change now into generative AI has changed customer expectations, and it's changed the products that we all are focusing on, and it's all moving really, really fast. And as we look at the speed of change, I feel like our companies that we work for, I know Salesforce, we're looking at, how is this going to change the way that we work? How is it going to change the jobs that we have? And I'm sure some of the people maybe that don't work in technology, but who are in your family, who are in your communities, are probably looking to you and asking, like, is my job going to be eliminated? Or, how is this going to shape the way I work? There's just a huge impact. We can see that 64% of execs are looking to hire folks with more experience with generative AI, and that can feel overwhelming. All of this, this change of productivity, the change in transformation, and the change in strategy that probably a lot of your companies are undergoing now because of this pivot to generative AI is really a lot to take in. Yeah, a lot of people are asking, like, how is this going to impact me? So I think that's why it's really important for architects in particular, as some of our customers' most trusted resources. We need to make sure we're a little bit ahead of the curve, that we're really skilling up to be prepared to guide some of the people that we work with to make really smart decisions. So, to start with today, I wanted to sort of ground ourselves in where we are in this AI revolution. And really, there have been a slide that was before this, because as I mentioned, the concept of AI is not new. It's been around since like the 1960s. There's been AI work that was a lot around like military intelligence, a lot around how are we, doing these calculations, a lot for maybe wartime purposes, things like that. But really, the wave in our modern era. So, there was a wave early on in the mid 1960s, and then sort of a quiet period that some folks refer to as like the AI winter, actually, which I found really interesting, where AI went silent for a while. And then in our modern times, the first wave that you can see on the slide is around predictive AI. And a lot of the things that we do, the searches that we do with Google, for instance, the texts that we send with our phone that predict what word we're going to say next, that predictive AI has been around a while and sort of has been an undercurrent in how we've used a lot of the technology that we just expect to work nowadays. So, predictive fuels like our Google searches, our text prediction when we use SMS, within Salesforce, also, a lot of you are probably aware that there's predictive AI like lead scoring and opportunity scoring. So that was all wave one. And then as of this year, this new wave of AI technology has started to emerge, led by OpenAI and their very popular product that now everyone knows, ChatGPT. That's really brought generative AI into the forefront of, I think, everyone's daily life. And generative AI, so true to its name, is different than predictive because the AI is not just predicting what's going to come next in a search or giving you a score. It's actually generating text. It's generating code. It's creating new content based on what we refer to as a prompt that you give the AI. So this is brand new. It's generating text and code and images and even video. And it's been made possible. This wave has been made possible because of a number of different factors. One of them is the power of the chips that we use to process all of this data. We talked about data and how that big wave of data has come in. So that's the processing power and also the volume of data has allowed us to reach this sort of tipping point with generative AI where it's become accurate enough to really make a difference. But that's not we haven't reached sort of the peak of this wave that we can see on the slide, because there's actually more waves of AI coming, and it's important to know that they're out there and also sort of to know the difference between what we're dealing with today and what, like, this long-term future is. So, wave 3 of AI is all around or is all about, what we call autonomous agents. And when we talk about an agent with AI, what we mean is that instead of just predicting, or excuse me, instead of just generating an email or something, generating a picture, agents are going to be able to generate or orchestrate a set of tasks. So, in a very simple example, that might look like asking maybe Einstein Copilot to help you automate a business process, and it will be able to predict what things need to be in place, what skills it needs to execute in order to achieve your business task. Sort of more forward looking, the idea of autonomous agents is that it's going to be a subset of AIs, really purpose built AI tools that can then talk to each other. So, like, I always like to think about in this grand future, it's like, okay, I could have my like Siri talk to my Alexa and like orchestrate all these things. Like, I don't have to tell them the discrete instructions. They'll be able to string together business processes. And then the fourth wave, which is like which people I think there's a good debate around whether we'll ever even get to this fourth wave, is called artificial general intelligence. And that's having an AI that can sort of achieve or execute on any task without necessarily being taught ahead of time. It's this AI that can do all the things. And that's really where people get nervous. You can see this like robot on the screen. That's like the science fiction future where people are like, is AI going to take over the world? Is this the end of humanity? We're not even like close to that right now when we talk about generative AI. That's this future vision where a lot of scientists and researchers actually even debate if getting to that wave is even possible in the first place. But it's good to know that, like, this four-step context of where we're operating. Okay, so now let's ground in Salesforce. So that's the big picture generative or AI landscape. But as I mentioned, AI is not new at all in the larger technology landscape, but it's also not new to Salesforce. So Salesforce has been invested in AI since 2014. We actually don't just develop products, but we develop a lot of research around AI as well. We have our own AI models that we We've created and we've had some acquisitions as well. Like around 2016, we acquired Prediction IO and MetaMind. We also have an Office of Ethical and Humane Use. So we make sure that, especially when we look forward to that wave 2, 3, and 4, we want to make sure that you can trust the AI solutions that we're creating, that they are adhering to your compliance regulations and they're not posing ethical risks. And you can see that we actually, as of 2023, a lot of this is taken off. So we launched what was called at the time Einstein GPT, and then you can see all these other GPTs, which stands for our generative AI, generative pre-trained transformers. So that's the technology that allows us to leverage generative AI. So that's the landscape at Salesforce. And this is all, as I've said a handful of times already, this is all very exciting, but it's not just all rosy and exciting. There's also a lot of concerns, right? This is new technology that behaves in a very different way. So a lot of companies and a lot of you probably have some concerns about how are we going to leverage generative AI within our business? How are we going to make sure that it's still trusted, that it's not going to hallucinate? And when we say this, we mean that it's not going to make up an answer. So if an AI doesn't have, if generative AI, large language models in specific, if you ask them a question and it hasn't been trained enough, it doesn't have enough data to make a good decision, it's almost like a little kid. It'll just come up with an answer instead of saying like, I don't know, it will just spit out an answer that's not true. So that's called a hallucination. That's one thing that people are concerned about. And then also, these LLMs or large language models are trained on huge amounts of data. So, how are you actually controlling the data that gets ingested? How are you controlling the data that gets generated and making sure that it's not sensitive data? And then finally, how are you making sure that the AI that was trained on imperfect data, right? It's trained on data that's generated by humans. OpenAI, for example, was trained on the data that's available on the World Wide Web, on the internet. And we know that not all of that data is good, right? There's data that's toxic and biased. And the large language models that we're leveraging have been trained on all of that. So how do we make sure that when we use this for a business purpose, that it's not spitting out things that are not appropriate for our business users or our customers? There's a lot of questions. And as an architect, those aren't the only questions that you have to answer when your companies are evaluating these solutions and this really big new technology topic, because they're also worried about how things are going to scale, how they're actually going to deliver solutions that have generative AI embedded in them, and how much time it's going to take to stand up these new solutions. So you might be wondering, where are you even going to start when you're thinking about learning about generative AI or leveraging generative AI with your customers? And I am pleased to tell you that you luckily don't have to reinvent the wheel completely. So there are some concepts, and if you're aware already of Salesforce Well Architected, what it is a way to approach your architectural thinking based on 3 values of trusted, easy, and adaptable. And the nice thing about Salesforce Well Architected is that it's concepts that can be applied to all types of technology. And this applied to the technology that existed in Salesforce 2 years ago, but it can also be applied to this new generative AI technology. So we're going to look at some of these concepts through the lens of trusted, easy, and adaptable today, so that again, you're not reinventing the wheel and having to think about these big topics, but you can apply best practices and you can apply your approach to learning about generative AI within this lens. So the first thing that we should talk about, it's the first value of Salesforce, the first part of Well Architected, which is trust. So your customers need a trusted AI. You could, and I know a lot of people have, just gone to the Chat GPT web app essentially and dumped a bunch of their information into that little text box to play around with a large language model for the first time. And that's great. But when you do that, you're also sharing whatever you put into that text box with OpenAI, which maybe, you have not vetted with your company, which maybe you don't want to share all of your personal information with. So we definitely caution folks against doing that. Um, and that's because when you talk directly with a large language model, you're essentially handing over your data. So by using an intermediary like Salesforce or like the Einstein One platform, you're actually communicating and leveraging some of these new technologies, but you have a layer in between. You're almost abstracting your connection. It's not like a point to point integration. You're not communicating directly with the large language model. There's this layer in between that does a lot of things. So we're going to talk about some of the things that it does. But it's important to know that that is one of the benefits. That's why we're like, yes, you could build an integration directly with a large language model provider like OpenAI, like Anthropic or Cohere. But there's some reasons why you might want to think twice before you go down that route. And we have infrastructure in place to help protect you from doing that direct integration. And then we also have a governance and compliance approach, which you can see on the screen. So these are the Salesforce tenets of trusted, ethical, and humane AI. And the big takeaway here is that your data that you have, that you've ingested, that your customers have entrusted to you, is not Salesforce's product. It's not our product. And we prioritize making sure that your data stays your data, that you can see how it's being responsibly used, and that we're being transparent about the way we approach AI. And we think about that as responsible AI. Okay, so with that in mind, with the transparency piece in mind, what you can see on the screen right here is the way that the Einstein trust layer, which is part of our generative AI solution, works. And what this trust layer is essentially a group of services. It's not like one service, it is a series of things, but essentially it allows you to engage with those large language models without sharing your information directly. So you can see here that up on the top of this diagram, where everything starts with a prompt when you're talking about generative AI. So you would like if you've played around with ChatGPT, you write your prompt and you say, hey, write me an email for a lead for my company or something, and you could type that into OpenAI or into ChatGPT. Obviously, if that's all you typed, you wouldn't get a very specific response. You'd get a very generic, a very general response that you probably couldn't use. So because of that, you would want to share more information about the customer, about the type of sale you're trying to do. But again, you don't necessarily want to share that level of information with your large language model. So in the Einstein trust layer, what we do is we retrieve the data about your customer or about your company from Salesforce, where it's already encrypted. You've already vetted Salesforce as a place where you can store that customer data. And then we do something called grounding. So dynamic grounding is essentially giving more information, giving more context to the prompt so that it can write a response that's actually going to be useful, that has all that great context about your products and about maybe the customer history. And then it does a very important step. It masks the data before it actually sends it to whatever model you're going to leverage for this particular prompt. So it never sends, for instance, like a social security number or a birth date or something like that. That data is replaced essentially with a token that doesn't impart that information. And then once we get the response or the generation, it's actually unmasked or demasked so that when you get the response back, it's actually useful. And we also do some toxicity detection and leave a bit of an audit trail in Data Cloud so that you can run analytics on the effectiveness of your prompts. So this is essentially a very high level look at the process of asking for a response or a generation from a generative AI model, and then how it flows through the Salesforce infrastructure or that Einstein trust layer. Okay, so that I wanted to start with that because it's important to be really transparent about how we're using the data, how we're interacting with the large language model. But that might all look kind of complex. There's like a lot of steps that we haven't thought about before as Salesforce architects. And in order for our customers to be successful with this and to not be scared away by all of these new steps and this new information, getting your data and sort of harnessing your data so that generative AI can use it needs to be easy. And that statement is actually harder to achieve than you might think from the outset because where your data is in reality is actually not always in Salesforce, right? Like in Salesforce, you could have your knowledge base, you could have your product catalog, but if you've worked on an enterprise or like a very large scale project, you know that not all of your data exists in Salesforce. You might have an external knowledge base or a product catalog that exists in another system. So, how are you going to get all this data in a place where the large language model and that Einstein trust layer can actually work on it? So, that is where Data Cloud comes in. And again, Data Cloud has been around for a little while. It's been through a couple of brand changes. We've known it as Genie, we've known it as CDP. And quite frankly, when we were creating Data Cloud at Salesforce as a company, this was before the big rush of generative AI, that second AI wave came about. But the timing actually worked out really well because this product actually does something exceptionally well, which is to connect your different types of data. So, whether it's data from Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, or even something like unstructured data. So, image data or lots of emails or things like that. It actually aggregates that data really well in a format that can be ingested by a large language model. So, Data Cloud becomes an important part of what is now being called Einstein 1. So, when we talk about the Einstein 1 platform, Data Cloud is actually a critical part of that platform. So, it's also important as an architect to sort of at a high level, and this one is, I think, a bit of a marketing slide, but it's important to know how Data Cloud works at a high level. So, as I just mentioned, you can have data from across different systems in lots of different formats. Doesn't need to all be in like a relational database format. And with Data Cloud, you can actually bring it all together and map it into the Salesforce metadata format that then allows us to use it with generative AI and with a lot of other cool techniques, even with predictive AI as well. And we'll get to that in a second. But I think this is a bit of a salesy view. I don't think it really gets at the level of detail that architects really want to understand. So I created what I refer to as a data cloud technical capability map. And this gets at, it's a little bit small in the slide, but you can actually download this diagram. And I think we'll be sharing the slides, or you can take a picture of that QR code. And it'll take you to the architect website where you can download this diagram. And I think this gets a bit of a better picture of what Data Cloud is really good at. So it's good at storing huge amounts of data in a new type of format that's called a data lakehouse. And I think the headline, like the big takeaway from all of this, is that for generative AI to give us really relevant and really good responses, it needs to have access to a lot of data. And Data Cloud is really good at aggregating these large volumes of data, even if it's across data sources, even if it doesn't exist in Salesforce. So, this is why Data Cloud is going to actually help you get those really great responses, and why it's important to sort of think about these tools as hand in hand, being able to harness your data, to connect your data, but then use it in those prompts that we're going to talk a little bit more about. Okay. So we talked about the trusted AI sort of infrastructure and architecture. We talked about why data is so important to generative AI. But there's also, on top of the infrastructure, on top of this data lakehouse, there's also the applications that Salesforce is building specific for generative AI. And then in the not too distant future, you as a customer are also going to be able to build your own applications on top of this technology that we've talked about so far. And it's really exciting, but there's also a lot of innovation coming out in a faster cadence. So we're used to the 3 releases a year. These AI new releases are coming out at a quicker cadence. So we're going to do a bit of sort of a a quick tour through some of the new changes so that you're familiar with how generative AI is going to impact across the Salesforce Customer 360. So if you weren't at Dreamforce, or if you haven't caught up on the Dreamforce videos on Salesforce Plus yet, one of the big announcements that came out is this vision of Einstein 1 Copilot. So when you hear this Copilot term, this is actually our sort of first baby step towards that wave 3 of AI, which is that agent. So Copilot is essentially, and we'll look at it in a second. Copilot for sales, for example, it's this widget that you'll see across the platform where you can actually ask a question to Einstein, and Einstein will, based on a set of skills that you pre-configure for it, will take action. Will essentially start to orchestrate some of your business processes, not just writing an email, but maybe it's working on an integration or take performing a series of sales tasks, for example. So Copilot for sales, for example, is piloting in February of 24. That's a very interesting date because that doesn't make a lot of sense. I think it means February 25, essentially like coming up in the winter of next year, 24. So you can see that we have generative AI coming out. We have Sales GPT, which is GA right now. So that might be something that some of your customers are already looking to get their hands on. And you can see some of the other features across sales that are coming. And so we're going to do a bit of like a whistle stop tour. So quick view of what's coming. So Copilot is also coming out for service as well. You've probably heard of Service GPT. That's the way that you can actually create responses for your teams that are in maybe a customer service center, and they need to respond to a request from someone calling up. That's another piece of generative AI that's available today for Service Cloud. Marketing Cloud, we also have some enhancements coming, the ability to essentially create a new segment in Marketing Cloud based on natural language processing. So that's pretty exciting. With Commerce, there's also a Copilot that's coming out for Commerce and Commerce GPT. So the classic demo that is being shown with that is the ability to create product descriptions instead of having to come up with your own text, using generative AI to generate those product descriptions. Platform services. So this is a big one. Almost everything when you think about generative AI, the way you start off or the way you request a generation from a large language model is from a prompt. So even if you're using Sales GPT, where you like press a button, it says like generate an email. Behind the scenes, what has already been pre-configured is a prompt that contains what data or what text you want to send to the large language model. So GA as of Q1 in 2024, you're going to be able to customize those prompts in a UI that's called Prompt Builder. So that's really exciting. Something that is open beta today that you can actually get your hands on and play around with is Einstein for developers. This is really, really cool. Again, it's natural language processing. So you can type in create a class to retrieve contacts that have a type of, whatever. So you can type that out in text, send it, click submit, and it's going to go out and request that code from one of Salesforce's homegrown large language models that's called Code Gen. And then it's going to give you Apex code back. So this is a really cool thing to play around with. And it is, we're continuing to train that model. So definitely play around with it. Would love your feedback there. Okay, what else? There is generative AI coming to Slack. One of the first things is around summarization. So that's something that you'll be able to use if, sometimes you get these huge long Slack messages. You don't want to read through the whole thing. You can get a summary of your Slack message with the tips that, like the bullets that you actually need to worry about. So that's pretty cool. Tableau. I don't have a ton of experience personally with Tableau, but I know that there is, again, Copilot is coming to Tableau in the longer term, and there are some enhancements coming for generative AI with Tableau. And I think the final thing, Quip. So there will be some templates that you can leverage to make your work with Quip even more effective. So you don't need to always create a template from scratch. So it's really exciting. And then I think there's one more slide actually. MuleSoft. This is cool. If you haven't played around with the Anypoint Code Builder, essentially that's being able to leverage a cloud UI for Anypoint. You're going to be able to, similar to the Copilot we talked about in a really general sense, you'll be able to request for your integration to be almost like blocked out, to have a stubbed out integration with some of the out of the box connectors. So you don't have to do as much configuration. It'll be a little bit faster. Einstein for Flow is something that was demoed at Dreamforce, which was really exciting. It's coming out in the first half of next year, essentially. These dates are hard to read for folks outside of Salesforce. And then industries, some enhancements coming there as well. Okay, so this is a lot. This was a lot of enhancement that's coming out. So I think the big things for architects to be able to understand at a high level is that all of this innovation is built on top of this Einstein 1 platform architecture. And we looked at sort of a very high view of it, but essentially on the bottom, a little hard to see, but you can see that it's the Einstein trust layer that we walked through at the beginning of this conversation that does the secure data retrieval and that grounding that we talked about and the data masking. On top of that is a series of models that you can leverage based on what you're trying to do. So our models like CodeGen, like I talked about, if you have your own, some companies are very fancy and ahead of the curve, and they already have their own models, either for predictive AI or for generative AI. If you have your own model, you can essentially register that model in what we call Model Builder that's in Data Cloud, so that you can use your model or you can share your Data Cloud data with your existing model. So that is pretty cool. And then also you can connect the Einstein 1 platform to other models like OpenAI through what we call a shared trust agreement, so that you can use those third-party models without necessarily sharing your data with those third-party vendors. And then, as I talked about, on top of all of this are those apps, things like the co-pilots that we mentioned, the agents, like prompts, and you can even use Flow to connect with some of these features, which is that's like the icing on the cake. That's really cool that you can actually build automations and kick off a new generation based on Flow. So there's tons and tons of possibilities. If you want to even deeper dive on the architecture, this is an Einstein system landscape that talks about, in a little bit greater, I would say, like more technical detail, the Einstein platform landscape. I think the headline here is that the dotted line around all of this is what, when you see in the marketing materials, when they say the Einstein trust layer, it's the series of services that are the Einstein trust layer. So this is a great reference if you're an architect that you can share with your customers. An important thing is the human in the loop. So for all of these things, even when we look at an agent or a generative AI agent in Salesforce, we're still keeping the human in the loop. So we're not at that completely autonomous agent wave yet. We're still making sure that before you kick off a business process that's orchestrated by AI, that a human is still involved and is still reviewing what's going to happen before it actually happens. And I think the big, probably there's a lot of new content. I think the big, most theoretical takeaway is that how we're going to build and how we're going to design solutions is changing. It's AI is changing how we build. So instead of having, a bunch of clicks to set up a flow or a bunch of typing to build some code, we're going to be using conversations. We're going to be using prompts to generate those clicks and those code. And then instead of just thinking about a data-driven approach, really everything we do and those prompts, those conversations are going to be grounded by the data that we have either in Salesforce or even across our enterprises that's connected together with Data Cloud. So this is a lot, but do want to remind you that we talked through that trust, how the easy and adaptable throughout this journey through the Einstein 1 platform. And Well Architected is going to continue to be your guide. We've already added some patterns and anti-patterns, things that you should follow as you start your journey with generative AI. So we'll continue to make sure that you can use Well Architected for your self-guided learning, that we infuse AI into all of our workshops that we do, into our training, and that it helps you as you start to use and really adopt this generative AI technology. And one of the first things that we did to help you with this within the Architect website and within Well Architected is to create an AI project resource gallery. So this is available at architect.salesforce.com or on this QR code. And this is a series of templates. It's those diagrams that we saw in this presentation. And this should just help you kick off your projects with AI, and we'll hopefully be adding more as a future looking statement, some more resources to our project galleries and more project galleries in the future. Okay, so I think with that, I did just want to close by saying thank you. And then, yeah, if there's any questions, I didn't see any pop up in the chat as we were going. You're probably trying to take in all the information we're going through. But if you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask them.
Thank you so much, Susannah. Amazing information is a lot of. I think is how I say we start the event is the principal topic today for the Salesforce ecosystem. I think for everyone in technology. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is important for everyone, even if you're not an architect. I think if
yeah,
you're working in technology right now, it's important to sort of, we talked about grounding prompts. I think it's important to ground yourself in like this AI functionality and just the history. So I've I don't know, recreationally, because I'm a little nerdy, definitely been learning more about just the history of AI and sort of where it's been outside of the Salesforce ecosystem, because I think it's really great to have that that grounding. So if you're interested in that, I definitely have like some books and I don't know, I've been listening to audiobooks, been reading a lot of books about AI. It's very, very interesting stuff.
yeah. I think we all imagine artificial intelligence as a robot. You say that. I think as we have the seen in many movies, we watch. I think one the concerts. So it's
Yeah.
always you check the robots. I imagine okay. I buy in the I don't know in the stores. I my check is the robot. I don't know. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. But I think the others important concerns in the about in artificial intelligence is about the bias. Because
Yes.
I know you say is trust, but I think that everyone not trust yet because I think it's very new. So
Yes.
I think we need more time to trust about that.
I think so too, and I think, that's why it's very important to if when we're using this technology to have a human that's reviewing it. The way
Yeah.
we're designing our applications is to make sure that, anytime a generation comes into the UI, that there's like a little some sort of visual indicator to say like, "Warning, this was generated by AI. You wanna look at it before you send it." Because, it is very different from the way other technology we're used to testing other technology, right? It's the responses that come from generative AI are non-deterministic, meaning you could ask the same question multiple times and you'll get different responses back. So you can't test it like you would test code or a flow where you can say, every time you run this code, the answer should be, 1, 2, 3. Like that is the right answer. And if it doesn't do that, then the test should fail. With generative AI, you can't necessarily do that. So that's why we have things like toxicity scores
Hmm.
and things that will at least bubble up to you as the user. Like this might not be something that you want to send.
Yeah, I think this resource Giuseppe shared
Oh,
with
thank
us
you.
is amazing. It's about the
Yes.
ethical aspect. So it is the principal topic in the EI certifications, the ethical,
Yes.
because it's important.
Yes, no, I love that, and that's written by one of my colleagues who's a brilliant, architect, and she leads the Salesforce ethical AI practice, so Kathy Baxter is definitely a name, that you wanna follow. This is a great document, thank you for sharing it, Giuseppe, and definitely follow her on all the social platforms. She's leading our ethical AI approach. She's very, very smart.
Yeah, we have here the first questions. It's how AI with helping companies since data will be puzzled, how we learning from the share of data.
Yeah, so I think if I understand your question correctly, yes, if you do not have data that's clean, that's good, that is able to be leveraged, then the responses that you get from AI, you'll still get a response, but it won't be as accurate a response. So, one of the mechanisms, there's a couple of things that you can do to make your prompt better. So either you can add that data, so literally like through a merge field in your prompt in the future in Salesforce, to make it more specific. Like instead of saying send a sales email to Sarah or to my customer, you would merge in Sarah's information, and then with our tools, you're actually able to use something that's called retrieval augmented generation, and that's essentially a way to ground your prompt even more.
Um, I, I mean, I think it was my connection, but I think it's Susannah. Yeah, technical problems always in technologies. One second. I think Susannah is come back soon. I sent the message for Shins. Please. 2 minutes, maybe. Susannah frozen, something new for. Uh, 1 second. 1 second. Okay. I see Susannah here again. Susannah, can you hear us? Thank you so much, Clayton, for joining us. Yeah, I know, Susannah. So you can connect again or you continue problems? No? What? Yes. I can see you with the host. Yeah, I can again. 1 second. Now, can you try again? I see you with how host. Yes. I can see you, but I can hear you.
Hello.
Hello again.
Thank you for your patience. Let me know.
No, don't worry, Susannah. This happens
Okay.
always.
Okay. So I think I was talking for a while. I was talking about the question from
Joao.
Joao. Yes. Essentially, so long story short, I'll give the short answer since I was out for a little while. The data is going to be masked. So essentially, it'll be given like a token that's a unique token that will then be demasked once the information comes back. So it won't be sent directly to the large language model. It'll be sort of depersonalized essentially before it gets sent. And then we also have what's called a zero retention policy so that our third party models like OpenAI don't, even if they get the prompt information and the tokenized PII stuff, it will not, OpenAI, for example, won't save any of that information. So they are not training their models on the information that we send.
Yeah. I think everyone asking about the no AI it's saying my work. I think today AI need the human to configure
Yes.
the AI. So I think it's saying the how you can see the all informations. I think it's more easy and help the people to easy work today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need more time to
No, it's
feel.
not gonna. It's not going to replace humans anytime soon. It's just going to help humans do their jobs differently. So I think, yes, augment human intelligence. I read or I heard someone say um, AI is not going to replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace humans who do not use AI.
Yeah,
So as I think we saw in one of the first slides, folks are going to start hiring for people who are, experienced using XYZ or like all these things. So that's why it's important to not be scared to learn, but also know that, um, it's not a fad that's going to go away. I don't believe it's not like we'll say crypto or NFTs. It is something I think it's going to stick around. It's worth investing and learning about. Um, and it's going to change the way we work, but not replace any of
yeah,
us.
I see the same. Yeah. How you say is human intelligence. That is true.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. I think I don't know. Everyone have other questions, comments. If not, we can start the good weight about the gift for the community in Madrid. I asked the questions. Sharabanti, you live in Madrid or in Spain? I'm not sure. Sarabanti, I'm not sure. I asked question. It's possible to have a program for 81? Madrid, nice, perfect. Okay. Susannah, we have other questions. It's possible to have a playground for 81?
So there's not, you can't spin up an org with Einstein right now. But there is, let me share a resource. There is a way to learn more about the platform and get a little bit more hands-on with, and let me share how to get access to the Einstein for developers. So I'll drop some links in the chat.
Perfect. Nice. Okay, I share my screen one more time. Can you see? Okay, and here we have the only people is live in Madrid. Sorry about that. One day we have sent the gift for all countries. Okay, so we start the source. I have the 5 participants, peoples. 1 second. Okay, confirm. Right now. Okay, I know. I forgot one sent. Okay, Ronald Nunez is the first winners. You winner this the Astro push. So I confused. I need to do again, but you're the first winner because 1 second. I am very new with this application. I will try again, but Ronald, you're not in the list because you win on the first gift. Here and Saria and Juan Carlos. Okay. And there's 2 more. Confirm more. I start again. Sorry about that. Perfect. Eduardo, you winner the cope about the trailhead. And Juan Carlos, you winner the trailhead, no, the ranger socks. So I contact you after the meetings or maybe tomorrow. I send the emails with when we can found to. Okay, sorry, 1 second. I have the thing here. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Okay, so I contacted you with the emails. We'll meet to deliver the gift. Okay. I finished the recording.